You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey, everybody, thanks for on the show. We had a great episode today with Claudine Pereira. Now, if that name sounds familiar, she's actually a previous guest, episode 40, that came out a few years ago. So a little bit about Claudine Pereira, what she's doing now. Now, everyone knows from episode 40, she was talking about her coaching business. Well, now she just released a new book called The 7 C's of Leadership Mastery, Unleash the Leader in You. So a little bit about the book. So in her book, The 7 C's of Leadership, Claudine practiced one of her golden principles, brevity. Each well-constructed paragraph succinctly describes one of the 7 key success factors of leadership with the right and consistent mix of theory, working examples, and personal experiences. The concepts make sense and are a good read for leaders new in their craft. And those of us who have been around for a while and could use a bit of course correction, it's a book that I definitely recommend. So we're going to learn about the book writing process for Claudine, and I know it's going to be a lot of fun. So sit back and absorb. Let me ask you this next question here. So now this is a little bit back to, for me, those thinking about trying to write their own book, like what were the costs that you had to incur to do this, right? So, because I'm sure you did a lot of writing yourself and you probably did a lot of proofreading, but
Yes.
it sounds like you had beta readers, you had editors, publishers. I don't even know all this stuff. So like, walk us through like, what's the cost structure or how does the costs add up to before you put your book to sale?
So one of your biggest costs is your editor. You need a really good editor that knows what they're doing. You need an editor that understands about, the right files. It gets really granular that like I started my book in a Word document, literally. You just download it, in Word, type whenever you can. I was typing on the plane coming home from the UK this May when I went out there to work with some clients. So 6 hours of flying time, I'm editing my book. But it's all in Word. And so you need a good editor that understands, okay, how do you take that and put it into a proper e-publishing file? There's different files for different things. Like It's very complicated. I would have no idea. How do you even upload it on Amazon? So your book editor is a crucial and critical part, again, I believe, in writing a book. Now, I know a lot of people that have done it without them and have, but to me, I think that is one of the biggest expenses, but it is the most valuable and critical because they will also hold you accountable to a timeline. They will also hold you, like if, for example, I needed to go deeper on one of my case studies, they're going to come back and say, okay, I need you to make that look like a movie, 3D it. And I'm like, okay, now I get it. So then you go even deeper through it because it's a process. So your editor is going to lead you through that process. And so that's one of the biggest expenses. The other expense you need to think about if you're considering writing a book is graphics, unless you're really good at it yourself. But again, when it comes to cover sizes, Amazon, all these places, they're very finicky. So, do you have a bleed? Do you not have a bleed? What's the size of the spine going to be? Like all of these little minutiae that I don't know. You need to have your editor, see here, this little ISBN number.
Yeah, the ISBN number.
On the back. So that ISBN number, I think I have like 7 of them because you have one for the paperback, you have one for the audio when you do audio, or you have one for your ebook, you have one for a hardcover, so there's different ISBN numbers for everything. So, and my editor, organized all of that for me. But you need a good graphic designer. Luckily, like I worked with Heather Chapman and Lana Crosby from Big World Creative, past clients of mine, big shout out to them. And Heather designed my cover from an idea in my head. I'd seen this wave. I'd taken a picture of it and I was on a cruise ship in Roatan, Mexico. And I thought, wow, that's what I want on the cover of my book. And I sent her a screenshot. We had a phone conversation and that's what she came up with. We moved a few things around. We put one of the what do you call that? Testimonial on the front page. So it's not cluttered, it's clean. So you need a good graphic designer. The other thing with your graphic designer that you need them to be really good at is the inside of the book, because remember, you've just developed this in a Word document.
Word or
so
Google
you need
Doc,
like these little, just even this was magical. The action plan at the end of the book was hand drawn. And so, they feed it into something, they make changes and they bring it to life.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right. So It is cool. So you need a very good graphic designer and someone to design your book cover. The cost of the books wasn't too bad because if you get a really good, they had a hookup with a good printer. So I bought about 100 for I've got another book signing coming up, but I bought about 100 just for people to, give some away. And ideally I want people to buy on Amazon and then write a review because that really shows the success of the book. And obviously then if you decide to do something like a book signing or you put food on and, you want to get that community and the marketing piece, I have someone that does my social media, all of those things go into the book costs. So, it's not inexpensive, but it depends on really your purpose to wanting to write a book.
Right.
To me, it's because yes, I wanted to get this story out there. I want to help people, and it is also a marketing tool for my business. I want to book keynotes around my book, and get it across the world.
No, absolutely. Right. And do you have an agent that helps you like do these book signings and sets you up in all these different places yet, Claudine?
That's me.
That's you, the agent. Okay.
Yeah, I did a book signing in Whitby. It was beautiful. I had about 60, a lot of my clients and 60 people are from the community, had some MPPs come out. We had tea and sandwiches. It was an old fashioned, we called it a reverse high tea where everybody serves themselves.
Yeah.
And we had, champagne and everybody came to sign the book. We had signed copies of the book. And then I have another one next Saturday right here in Toronto. There will be one at the beginning of June in England, one in my hometown of Reading, and one up in Waterstone's bookstore up in London. So very exciting.
Where's my invitation? I didn't know there was one in Whitby.
Yeah.
And there's one in Toronto.
Oh, yeah, it was everywhere. It's in my newsletter. It was all over the socials. I had it up at the beautiful vintage lofts on Dundas and Brock. She's a client of mine. She's wonderful.
I'll look for it so I can maybe see you there when you do yours. That'll be great.
Yes.
I'll get a copy.
Excellent.
Yes, there you go. So,
wonderful.
No, the only reason I asked about the agent thing, because I remember this many years ago where I was in Eden Center walking, there, and I just saw this author who put out a book, and he was just sitting there, just eating a sandwich with his book, and like no one was in the lineup, and I was thinking, oh man, I felt bad. I'm like, I hope he fires his agent. Like, who put him up here? And there was like no fanfare. Right. And he was there for like at least a few days because I was working downtown Toronto during that time. So I'd walk by it. I'm like, man,
he's just there.
Wow. Sitting there. Like, I mean, I hope he wasn't loitering. He just put up his own table and his own picture or something. But I think he actually was there to get a book signing. I was like,
promote his book.
Yeah. And I'm like, I should have bought his book. I totally don't even know who the guy is, but I just saw that. I was like, if you're an agent, man.
Well, I know that's the thing. And well, yeah, like, do you need an agent? Maybe. For me, I know a lot of people. In the last 10 years, I've been blessed to, build a great community. And again, my editor was the one and there's another lady that works as part of the team that kind of goes, okay, stage 1, you want to get it to number 1. And then stage 2 is you want people to read it. Stage 3, you want then Amazon reviews. Stage 4 is, well, in between that, you're going to do your book signing. So the idea is that from a marketing perspective, you want to keep the hype going. Yep. Right, you don't want it to die. Books have a very short-lived. Once that book signing is done, people have bought your book. They're on to the next thing. So for me, I keep wanting to reignite that flame with the book, and that becomes so. This poor gentleman, the thing is that you have to then hype it up that you're coming here. Here's where I'm going to be. Like it's been on my socials for the Toronto book signing next week. This morning, my newsletter went out. If you want to come, reply. I'm in. To get on the list. So everything kind of has its stages. And then at some point it's also on Barnes and Noble online and Indigo. And once I get a good amount of Amazon reviews, I'm going to be walking in to Indigo everywhere in the city and trying to get my book on the shelf. But to do that I need to have at least 50 to 100 really solid reviews on Amazon for them to go, okay, this is worthy getting this on the shelf.
Right, because books, because shelf space is very, very tight in bookstores. I guess people forget about that, right? Where I think nowadays, I don't know if it's easier now to try and write a book versus back before the internet or back before, social media came out where, you really, if you just had a book, that'd be great because they love the space. But now it's like, oh man, now we got to be very careful not to put too much stuff on, so we got to make sure we have just the right variety,
the right amount. Exactly. And now there may be a strategy or to get somebody to help you to get those, the books on the shelves. But again, as I said, my editing team is really good. The other thing too is, I made a big list of influencers.
Hmm.
Who do I need to reach out to help them to get me to promote the book? Who can I reach out to get speaking engagements? So, and again, so it really just depends on your purpose of your book. You might just write a book because you want to say you've written a book and, have very passive, book signing and give some to friends and family. But mine is, it's a gift also to my business because I want to continue to use it as a marketing tool until the next book comes out. I need to recoup my expenses with this one first.
Well, actually, let me ask you this then, because this is something that
Yeah.
I've always wanted to know. And like I said, maybe you're not at that stage yet where, let's say you get your books into Indigo, for example, right? So
Mhm.
any Indigo location. So is it one of the things? So if you get a book on a shelf, do they
Yeah.
pre-purchase your like a certain quantity of books that they put on the shelf, and then how long does it stay? And if do they keep like how long do they hold it for before they're like, okay, it's been X amount of time? Do they give the books back, or like I don't know how that works? Do you know how that process is yet?
Yeah, I think they take a say. I had a client of mine who got her book here in Canada into chapters, and they take a certain quantity from you, and then they'll take their royalties and like the shelf fee and so on. And I guess if they will track the sales, and if it's not selling, then they yank you. But the trick, and so this is why it's really important to have that. You can't, the chicken before
In
the
stages, you
the
need,
egg type of
yeah.
in stages, and that's where I've learned from my now I know, like I know the process inside out, upside down, but at the beginning I didn't. And they said that's why you need a very good book editor that they know what they need to know what they're doing. Otherwise, it will fail miserably. Yeah.
So then are you selling this to like chapters in Indigo, or is it like your editor, or is it a combination of both? Because you said the editor knows, aside from how to make a book, but how to make a book that people want to read. And of course,
Yeah.
Indigo chapters, all those guys, all those bookstores, they love to read. So do they talk to them, or like that's the thing? Like this is new to me. I don't understand the process. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing. So this step one is that you upload the book on
Amazon, right?
Amazon. Then you upload it as a platform called Ingram Sparks,
Hmm.
which is Ingram Sparks is holds Barnes and Noble, holds Indigo, Walmart. So if you didn't buy it on Amazon, you can go to Barnes and Noble and buy the book, or Indigo, or Walmart online,
Right.
and you can buy copies. You can write a review. The royalties are actually better on Amazon versus the other two when I looked at it. So that's sort of step one. And then once you've got like that really good, foundation and reviews, then it puts you in a better position to approach the bookstores to say, hey, can I come in and do a book signing? Or hey, after the book signing, if it goes really well and I bring some people into your shop, would you consider putting it on the shelves? There's two local bookstores. I got a couple names of two really smaller bookstores, one at a business bookstore in Toronto. And I'm going to try and get it on their shelves
Hmm.
because it's good to start small. If I had those two and had a couple of book signings there and say, I'm going to bring in my community and, would you let me sign books and we'll work something out? Then I can say we've had two book signings in smaller stores. We've got Waterstones coming in the UK next year. So you just kind of,
Well,
it is that hype.
Well, yeah, no, that's actually really cool though, because you're talking like, because
Yeah.
I think what I would have thought is, okay, I'll put it on, if I had a book, put it on Amazon or whatever, and then
Yeah.
go straight to chapters in Indigo. But I like the approach you had, is like you have the right people to say, we're going to start small, get a X number of
That's right.
reviews, right? Just target smaller bookstores, and by the time you go to a chapter, and you said if you've done several book signings already,
Yeah.
that shows that, okay, there's actually a
That's
demand
right.
for it. And you can check my socials,
Exactly.
just see the lineups and blah 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 blah. And oh wow, so there's a lot more to it. See, this is why it's really cool to know
It's
this.
a lot more to it. And the thing is that, for example, a lady in my network, she's an amazing shout out to Catherine from Organized by Catherine. She's awesome. And she's done a lot of personal organizing for me here at home, and my office is beautiful because of her. And she wrote to me last night. She says, I read your book. I love it. She wrote me an Amazon review and she put that same review on Google. Like that, if everybody did that as bought that book right now, it would like help me enormously. Not help me, but help obviously the reviews are massive.
Right.
right? The reviews are huge.
All right. Well, here.
So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. It's been a journey. Let me tell
Well,
you, it's been a
well, here
journey.
now we'll do our tips from the pro, but now this is specifically for book writing because that's what now before was coaching. Now this is the tips from the pro
Yes.
from the book writing part. So
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
all right. Question number 1. What was actually your writing process?
I literally, so a couple of things. I just haphazardly took everything I started from my early stages in, dance, because that's really where I started my leadership journey, to my career at the bank, and now into business. So it was a 3-step process. I used Word literally for typing everything. Again, everyone, you can do it however you want, but Word, very basic. I came up with a title, which was a spin on this, but it wasn't the same title. And I decided my editor had coached me, say, look, you need to decide how many chapters you want and start with your chapter headings. And then you need to start to have a theme. So if you notice when you read the book, it has, a code at the beginning, it has a quote, has some theory, has a coaching moment, a case study, and then your action plan. So every single chapter has to follow that flow. I would use things like Otter. Otter is a free app that you can speak to. So for example, I was on a cruise ship and we were off at the island one day, and I was we were at Coco Cay in the Bahamas, and the whole team was getting lunch ready, and they were having this huddle. They looked really good. They were all wearing pink shirts. And I'm like, wow, they were just now, of course, biased because they're wearing pink, but I could really just tell from a customer experience, they cared. So I quickly grabbed my phone and I go to Otter and I speak to it and say, one of the examples of customer experience is leadership. I was just watching this great team here at Coco Cay, and Otter is transcribing it for me. Then I hit stop and send, and it goes to my email. I take it, I cut and paste into Word, and Bob's your uncle.
Wow. Interesting.
So Otter is a really handy tool. A lot of us, even including me, get stuck in our heads. We've got our ideas up here. We sit down to write and then we freeze. I decided not to do that. I was looking for moments on the fly, and then I would use Otter to speak to my phone to go, wow, that was magical. And then I want to write some tips around it. And so that was a huge help, and just Word. Just Word.
Right.
Yeah.
Next question then. So, well, how
Yes.
did you, every writer, to my knowledge, always has they always hit that block, that writer's block. What is your best tip to getting over writer's block?
Get up and walk away.
Get up and walk away. Okay.
Walk away from it. I think, one of my biggest mistakes at first when I started writing 5 years ago was I would sit there and go, right, I'm going to write my editor would say, write 750 words today. And you're like, okay, you think that's not a lot, and it's quite a lot, but that's like a page a day, really. And so there was times I'd sit down, it's, dark evenings, and I go to write and I just can't do it. So I get up and I move, I leave it, because otherwise you're going to just block yourself. So get out and go for a walk and come back to it.
So don't force yourself to do it. And so, do you ever watch that show Frasier?
Yes.
Do you remember that really early episode of Frasier where Frasier and Niles were trying to write a book on brothers, parent, psychiatry, and they almost got into a fist fight inside the hotel room. So
yeah, I know it's a lot. Like, and because you're in your head, right? You're trying to dig. And there were times where I sat down and go, okay, case study. I need a case study for credibility. What am I going to write? I've got 5 different things in my head. And I'm like, okay, then how am I going to change that around to protect, privacy of, so again, sometimes I get so frustrated. I got to step away from this.
How long do you step away for?
Depends. If I'm done and I really am spent, then I'm done for the night. Right. And, and I think you also need to work with, when do you best write? Do you best write in the evening? Are you a morning person? You've got to set aside time to write. That's really important. It had to be part of my schedule.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that when you have an editor, they're going to give you got a timeline. I had to rewrite my 7 case studies to go deeper, and I had a week to do it. And I was stressing. I'm like, how am I going to go deeper? So I'm like, okay, let me take it in by, they say you can't eat an elephant all of the time.
Right.
Let me just do one chapter. So I did one, and I did one, and I went deep. I pretended it was like a film. We were sitting in an office with big windows, downtown Toronto. And, my new client, Joe, had been blah, blah, blah. And so I did that. Once I did one and I submitted it, and she said, yeah, that's much better. then that gave me the confidence to move on to number 2. And then the next thing you know, I had all 7 done over the course of that week.
Wow. Well, it's like you said, scheduling it in, almost like a routine for yourself almost is very
Yeah.
important. Like I'll share this quick story. So my family and I were on a vacation in Japan this past year. Now we went on a Japanese
Ooh,
cruise, which I didn't know you could do. I knew
it's
Caribbean cruises, Mediterranean cruise.
ah,
I did not know you could do one in Japan, right? But
go
I guess
figure.
Japan is so big that every day you'd be in a
Yeah.
different city. And the funny thing about this thing, about routine, this is what I'm going to tie it back to, is that I did 2 things on this cruise that I never did before. I maintained my gym workouts and I got to
Good for
study.
you.
But the problem is, here's what happened when you try to do it too much. So I'm an early riser. So if I was to get anything done, Claudine, I need to do it in the morning, right? So
5 in the morning.
5 in the morning. I wake up early. My wife's still asleep. Mrs. K is still asleep. The kids are asleep.
This is
I
good.
go hit the gym. Now, after that, this is like a 12-day cruise. I would then go back to our room, grab my tablet, because I was doing a course on contract law. Yes, I'm a dork. Doesn't seem to be the most exciting thing in the world, but I was doing contract law.
Cool.
So I would, and you know how in cruises, like you've been on cruises before, and for those who've been on cruises, you know that there's a buffet area, and there's usually a sit-in restaurant that depending on when you do, you get your own sit-in restaurant. So you don't have to do buffet all the time.
That's right.
Buffet loses me after day 1. The novelty wears off after day 1 because I'm worried about bumping into people, knocking over a plate from a staff member, holding up like 20 dishes.
I know.
So
it's hectic.
Oh my God, I would actually sit at the sit-in restaurant bright and early by myself and then just sit and have my course and just study. And it was so good until my son wanted to come with me one time. Because this is probably about 7 or 10 days into 7 days into the cruise, because all the staff of the cruise thought that I was traveling myself. I'm like, no, there's 10 of us, right? There's my wife, there's myself, there's my 2 kids, there's my 2 nephews, my brother, sister-in-law, and my parents. My in-laws. And the next thing you know, my son wants to come. Okay. And they're like, oh wow, Ken, you're traveling with other people. I'm like, yep. The next day there was my son plus my nephew. And then my son plus my nephew plus my other nephew. Almost every other day until to the point where
someone's coming.
And then it was like 10, like just at the end of the cruise, that's when all 10 of us showed up. And I'm like, it ruined my routine.
Ruined your morning routine.
I could have gotten further in my course. But anyways, back to this other question.
Well, can I just but I got to tell you that. I've got to stay here just for 1 second. I know we might be running out of time soon, but that's the kind of time that you would sit and write your book. Now people will say, well, I'm on vacation. But again, if you want to really get something done, you got to put in the extra effort.
Absolutely.
You got to put that extra, I was on 2 cruises editing my book. I would sit with my laptop on my balcony on a sea day, and I would take an hour and I would work on it. Then I'd shut the laptop. The next day I would do a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes, so that's what I would say, that quiet time is really important. I was also seeing clients when I was on the ship. I was still working. It was one of my dreams this year to travel and work at the same time, which on a cruise, it's so easy to do. So easy to do. You just got to know where you're going to be on each day and schedule your time.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the book was born on the wonder of the seas. I printed off my first draft. The concierge printed it off for me. So I had like a physical copy of it. It's pretty cool.
Wow, nice.
So yeah, that's quiet time. That's what you need. You need to carve out that time.
Exactly. Whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, whatever works for you. Okay. Next question. So paperback, hardcover, ebook. What would you recommend for a new person to start?
Well, again, my personal, I love paperback. I like the look and the feel of a book. I like to be able to earmark or draw in the margins. So, I think it depends on what it is that you're writing. This is good because it's a workbook style. It's storytelling, but it's workbook style so that you can make notes and do your action plan. But if you want to just do an ebook, it's pretty easy to get off the ground. You need 1 file. You can sell it for, I think my ebook sells, $9.99 or something like that. And then you can put it on sale. So you can have a day when you drop it to 99 cents for a week. And then you can up your sales of it. Now, it's interesting. I thought I would have sold more ebooks, but I haven't. I've sold more physical copies and maybe just a few ebooks.
Yeah, I think there's something about the written page, the feel. Like I still like reading the newspaper. When we get
Me too.
We get
Me too.
We get flyers. I like to look through them. You know?
Oh, Jen,
Yeah, I mean,
same.
I give a lot of respect for people who tried to create something, even though most of the
Mhm.
cases, let's say the flyers are probably going to chuck in the recycling bin anyways. But I will
Right.
actually sit down, have a coffee or a tea, and just kind of look at it. I mean, I'm not going to buy it, but I just want to see what's going on there. Because next thing you know, you'll see something
Yeah.
that you're like, oh, I didn't even know they sell those things, and then you buy it, right? So, all right, no, it's a pretty good thing to
Love
know.
it.
Next question: what to look for in a publisher?
So I self-published.
Ooh,
So there's two things. So yes, I self-published under my brand of the Pink Coach University.
I see it
So
there.
I have something called the Pink Coach University,
Yep.
which is continuing education for my clients. So I self-published. So I didn't use, Penguin or one of those bigger publishing houses. Now, to me, I can self-publish a few books under my own personal publishing house. If I wanted to go bigger and across the world, like for example, Robin Sharma, who I love, his last book, the Wealth That Money Can't Buy, you know, sold a gazillion copies, but he's got a really strong publishing house, and these are the people that will help you to get it widespread, and they will book your book signings, and they'll have you on a book tour and all of those things. So I think it really depends on where you are at in your book journey. But if you're just starting out, as I said, self-publish, but you need to invest in a really good editor. A really good editor is going to run you around. Now these days it's going up, but at least $5,000,
Yeah.
maybe more.
And that's for a really good one too. But you know what?
Yeah.
They're probably worth it because, like you said, if all you're doing was just putting it in an ebook, okay, you think it's all that simple. It's
Oh,
just grammar check, but there's more to it than that.
it's not.
It's more to
The
it.
file size is really important. When you upload to Amazon, they're very picky about margins and file sizes. I would never have known any of that.
Yeah.
Even for a hardcover, I haven't done a hardcover, and I'm not sure if I'm going to, because I need to get this reworked. A hardcover file is a whole different story. So I'm like, well, my next thing is the audiobook. I would like to do that versus doing a hardcover if I had to choose,
Right.
for people that don't like to read or have a disability in reading.
Yeah.
Very important to me.
Absolutely. Okay. And the last one. This is the one most listeners were actually we're making sure. Ken, you got to ask. Okay. The last
Yeah.
question is for Tips from the Pro. When are you getting Ken Alfred to narrate your audiobook?
Oh, I love it. I was just talking about that actually. I'm setting up, I had a meeting with somebody that understands about recording
Yeah.
audiobooks. And my vision for that is that I would record the chapters, and at the end of each chapter, you and I would do a working session.
Absolutely.
So we would deep dive into maybe the case study or a coaching moment and have an audio, like a conversation around that.
And
But
and
yes,
that's the thing. Liz
I
plug,
love
and
it.
this is not about me, but just to let
It
my
is
listeners
plug.
is that
Great.
I recently released an audiobook for a very good client of mine named Karsten Cork, sorry, and it was a very interesting experience. And what we did, and which is why we're probably going to do this, probably collaborate with Claudine on this, is that I read the audio, which is usually what a voice actor does. But when what we decided to do was I was chatting with the author, and you said, like with Claudine, we would actually be doing like a working session where we're just chatting just for maybe a couple of minutes. I mean, sometimes it actually was longer than the actual chapter, but it was actually asking the author to really expand on something, or maybe it's something that they couldn't include in the book that they wanted to, or some context behind
Beautiful.
it. So then, because for those, I'm going to date myself for the listeners here, but if listeners remember watching a DVD box set or a Blu-ray box set of something, whether it's a TV show or a movie, there's something that they would always include, which would be called special features or bonus features.
Bonus features.
And a lot
Yeah.
of it could be like director commentary of what's happening in the actual episode or in the movie. That's what we decided to do for an audiobook perspective. So to give the listeners that extra content that, yes, you'll hear, like in this case, Claudine read the entire chapter of her particular book. But then, okay, let's say you had questions about a certain thing. Well, that's where Claudine and I would come in. Well, I'll ask her, Claudine, okay, what did you mean by this? So what did
I
you
love this idea. I love this. This is going to happen. This is a Q1 project, and I really love it. I think it's a different spin on just, and I remember listening to, I'm not a fan of audiobooks because I like to
Right.
read, but I love listening to podcasts.
Mhm.
But Matthew McConaughey, his book, Green Lights, he did it on audio, and it was magic because he's got a special voice.
he
He's
does.
got like this southern drawl. and he brought his whole book to life. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, now we're gonna move on to the rapid fire round now. So
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
okay.
not gonna ask her the same questions like I asked her last time, like about the sandwich or about her
I
favorite
don't even
music.
remember.
Right. I remember. I rewatched the episode just to make sure to not ask the
Oh,
same questions. So all right, question number
okay.
one. What is your favorite shade of pink?
Bright.
Bright pink.
Very bright.
Okay.
Bright pink. The brightest pink that you can ever have. Fuchsia.
Neon
Like
pink, fuchsia. Actually, that was my wedding.
neon.
That was actually part of my wedding colors. Actually, my wife picked
No way.
orange and fuchsia. That was what our wedding colors were for our wedding.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Very
And we're actually
unusual.
matching
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
It's like the fuchsia, orange, something like that.
Fuchsia and
you
orange
go.
salmon mix.
All right.
Yes.
Favorite
Okay.
movie?
Oh gosh. Grease.
Yes, Grease is
Grease is a word. I love Grease.
All right, now
Love
to
Grease.
piggy.
Oh, and Dirty Dancing.
Sorry, can't go
can't
wrong.
choose me.
Time of my life. How can you go wrong with that?
Oh,
You know,
love it.
R.I.P. Patrick Swayze. All right,
Okay.
all right.
I know.
But Lara, let's move
Yeah.
on to something more fun too. To piggyback off the
Okay.
movie, who would you like to play you in a movie?
Oh, who would play me in a movie? Oh my gosh. I can see her in my head. She played she was the movie Fame and the TV show Fame.
Okay,
Her name, she played the character Coco, and I don't know her name.
she wasn't the instructor,
But that
was
was
she?
my
Oh,
no,
she
she
was a
wasn't the
dancer.
instructor. She was a dancer,
Oh,
and that was my nickname in dancing school was Coco, because they all thought I looked like her. So either her or Jennifer Beal.
Jennifer Beal. Okay.
Jennifer Beal, who was in Flashdance, she's got like that big fuzzy hair. She was in the L Word as well. Jennifer Beal's got like she played in Flashdance, and she's got that wiry curly hair. So either her or Coco from Fame.
Actually, the Coco from Fame, I just looked it up, is Erica Gimple.
Yeah. There we go, Erica Gimple.
Gimple.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or Gimple.
Gimple, whatever.
Or
Yes.
Jennifer Beal.
Jennifer Beal. That's easier to remember.
Or if I went really wild, Catherine Zeta-Jones, 'cause I love her, and she's a triple threat. She can sing, dance, and act.
What has
I
she been
love
doing
her.
lately? What has she been up?
I don't know.
Has she
No
married
clue.
Michael Douglas? I haven't seen too much of it.
She's like underground.
But you know what?
Chicago's one of my favorite
She could be
movies.
one of
She's
those.
fabulous.
She could be one of those celebrities that, you know what? I don't need to do anything.
She doesn't need to do anything. I don't think she needs to.
Exactly.
She just, you know.
So, all right, last couple of questions here.
Okay.
Guilty pleasure, biggest time waster you do?
Guilty pleasure, biggest time waster. Probably feeding my birds.
Feeding your birds.
My birds. I have a gaggle of birds that come for breakfast. Now that the evenings are winding down, it's now October the 18th. They come at 7:30 in the morning for breakfast. So I put their seeds out the night before.
Wait, these are
and
external. These are outside birds.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But they come for their dinner now around 5-ish. My cat Smokey doesn't bother them. He will sit outside on the lounger and just watch them. And there's probably 100 of them all coming to dinner, and I just sit in like a little meditation and watch them.
No,
Guilty pleasure and probably a waste of time.
no, but you know what? I actually did a lot of bird feeding this year, actually, because we bought. Oh my God! Last year we bought one of the most expensive bird feeders we can possibly imagine. We went to the Urban Nature Store in Pickering, and it was like this $300 thing with like 4 different things. And I bought all the seeds, and we would see all these birds just kind of like hover and start to eat, and then we're just like, "Oh, this is kind of nice, right?" But then I noticed though is that this is not to be racist against anything, but blackbirds, I noticed we got a lot of them, but what these blackbirds were doing, they were actually bullies and a kind of a jerk.
Oh yeah, they knock the other ones out. I've
saw
seen those
one,
guys.
Claudine, I kid you not. I was there watching outside. There was budgies and blackbirds. This blackbird pinched this budgie's, I guess, beak and flung it off the bird feeder.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, you jerk. So when I went, so I finished the seeds, and then I went back to the store. I'm like, okay, which of the seeds, what kind of bird food can I get that blackbirds don't like?
Yeah.
Totally different thing. Perfect. There's no blackbirds, and all the other birds were eating it, and there's just something, I don't know, relaxing about it.
I like it. It's very cathartic and therapeutic for me.
Well, yeah.
Bit of a short.
I mean,
but, yeah.
I didn't enjoy paying $100 a month for seeds, but you know,
I know
it's
it is
expensive. Okay, so
it's expensive.
So listeners, so Claudia and I are going to start a new bird watching podcast. We're going to talk about.
Well, there's an app. I got to tell you, there's an app called Merlin.
Oh.
The Merlin app, Merlin. You hit play, and it picks up on all the different birds that are singing around you.
Oh.
So when I go for my walk, I hit play, and it will pick up a cardinal or a red-winged red-winged blackbird
Yeah.
or, a
We
cardinal.
saw
Yeah, it's pretty
cardinals. It was
cool.
actually it was really nice. I was waiting for a blue jay,
Yeah.
but we didn't get one.
Oh,
But all right,
yeah.
last question here. I don't know if you know this,
Okay.
but glamping, yay or nay?
How's glamping?
So that's what it is. I'll let you know what glamping is. You heard of camping, right?
What is glamping? Yeah.
So glamping is glamorous camping. So
Oh God, no.
you actually go to. So my wife and
No.
I, Mrs. K, did this. We did this a couple years ago during the
Yeah.
Olympics. You go to
Yeah.
a campsite. You pay like $200 or $300 depending on what you want to do, and the
Mhm.
tent is already kind of set for you. But it's kind of like it is outdoors, and the tent is over this area that you're going to be doing. But it has like a stove, a bathroom, a
Oh,
shower, a bed, all these different things. So it's like you're it's less than a cottage in terms of structure, but it's
right.
but you are.
But it's outdoor, like tenting, glamping.
Yeah.
Oh,
So like
okay.
you
Yeah.
you you
See?
open it like we did this in the winter. I don't know why I was thinking about doing this in the winter, but we went in the winter and we had like heated blankets, a fireplace. It
Oh,
was really nice, right? But then my wife and I got into an argument over cross country skiing and we had a blackout, and then that unfortunately ruined the vacation for us. But
yeah. Go home. Yeah.
so
No,
you would.
that's exactly why I would not do that. I have a cottage, and I would not. I camped once, and I hated it.
Same
It
here.
was a campsite right by the side of the road. The trucks were flying by Highway 7 all night. I'm like, I'm never doing this ever again.
No,
No,
our
no glamping for me, Sir Ken.
oh well, you know what?
Nope.
I thought maybe doing glamping in, let's say, the summer would have been better, but then my wife's like, "No, critters." But
No.
the funny thing about glamping that we had that we didn't actually, it was funny because there's fireplaces inside, so you are feeling warm, but then you have to keep replenishing the fire.
Fire.
And when you're
Yeah.
sleeping in a sweater,
It's cold.
it's cold, and
Yeah.
then next thing you know, after a couple hours, it's cold, right? So we got to a moment where it wasn't all bad, but my wife and I were kind of like, when you kind of you're kind of awake, but you don't want to wake up. You want your husband or your wife to wake up first. We were both in that
Mhm.
position where I think we were both awake, but none of us wanted the other person to actually wake up so they can put fire in the logs. Like put the logs in the
Yeah.
fire. And
Yeah.
that's what it was. But our last camping one, the
No.
only time we ever did, was horrible because we showed up and someone took our camping spot.
Oh,
And it was
fantastic.
raining. It was dark. So we
Oh.
went some friends and they said, "Oh, let's go to get dinner first." I'm like, "Why don't we set up our tents first and then go to dinner?" I was outvoted. We show up, it's pouring rain. I see them trying to put up their tents. They have two tents, this big tent, and then they put a smaller
Yeah.
tent inside the big tent that's like the dry puff, the drier areas.
Oh.
And then my wife and I looked at each other. We're like, "Yeah, we're going to sleep in the car." Very
Oh my
uncomfortable.
God.
So
No.
glamping, I wouldn't
Oh,
say yes again. I may try it again, but it sounds like glamping is a
no.
nay. So
Big fat no.
that's a nay
A
nay.
big
So
fat no.
all right. So is there
Yeah.
any other messages you want to give to the listeners about your book, the writing process, or any motivational words you can give them?
I would just, say a couple of things. No matter who you are listening today, what you do, I would just say anything is possible. Well, if you do happen to pick up a copy of my book, 7 C's of Leadership Mastery, plug,
It'll be on the show
which you
notes.
can find on Amazon. Um, I'm just an ordinary girl from Reading in England, and single parent family, not a lot of money, and came to Canada with just a dream and started my business just from a dream. And anything is possible, absolutely anything. If you really want it that badly enough, you've got to put your mind to it. You got to carve out the time, but you can do anything that you put your mind to, absolutely anything. If I'm a testament and I can encourage you to do that, whether it's a book or anything else that is sort of weighing on your mind that you really want to do, you can do it. You can do it. Absolutely.
Wow, great final words. And where can people find your book one more time? It's on where?
Amazon,
Well,
Barnes and Noble, Indigo, Indigo and Chapters, and Walmart, I believe, online.
all right.
So, yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, Claudine, for being on
Thank
the
you,
show.
Ken. Thanks for having me.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.